So here we have the topic of HTML tables. And this is one that sometimes new programmers will struggle with a little bit. It's not so bad, and it's maybe not used as much as perhaps you think it is. The chief thing I want to say about HTML tables, other than just showing you how they work, is to encourage you to remember that we use tables to present data. We don't use tables for document structure. I gave you a list of tags already that provide document structure. The div tag, the span tag, the break tag, and to a lesser degree, the paragraph tag. Use those. And as we learn more about the next topic, CSS, you should be able to do everything with those proper tags to structure your document. If, however, you have data that you want to summarize, then a table is the right choice. So in just a second here, I'm going to demonstrate how you can use HTML to create a table. And then just like I did with lists, I'm going to come right back here and give you a little challenge to kind of test your comprehension. As promised, I want to show you some HTML tables, but before I do that, I just want to emphasize one thing, and this is universally true whether we're talking about lists or tables or anything else. And again, I think I've said this, but I want to just make it abundantly clear. The spaces and line breaks I have here in my last example do not matter as far as the browser is concerned. So when I preview this in a browser, I get my new menu with the bulleted list of menu items. What if I were to like put all of that on one big ginormous line? Now this would be very hard for a human being to read, right? It's not immediately clear visually to me looking at this HTML what it does, but the browser does not care. I get exactly the same result in the browser. That's because all of the structure of the document is coming from the tags, not from my use of spaces or line breaks inside of the HTML. Okay, I'm going to make a copy of my menu new, and I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to call it table. And I'm going to give it a title of my table and my table. And I'm going to get rid of this mess. Now, in the slide deck, I had 4 tags. I had the table tag, the TR tag, the TD tag, and the TH tag. And if you can remember what those abbreviations stand for, you'll be well on your way to mastery of the HTML table. Of course, the table tag represents the whole table. That's my table tag. The table is made up of rows and columns, a lot like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet. Rows and columns. That's what we're trying to create here. So to create a table, I would first create the rows, and then inside of each row, I would create the data cells. So TR is short for table row, and TD is short for table data cell. And then last but not least, we have TH. The H in the TH tag is short for header, because often a table will have some special formatting in the first row dedicated to a table header. So I'm going to list I'm going to make a table of books and authors. It's going to be a very short list just because I don't want to do that much typing and I don't want the video to get crazy long. So here's our table. I'm going to create the first row, and I'm going to have the title of the book, and I'm going to have the author. So this is my first row. I'm going to put a line break in to just emphasize what I'm doing here. Again, the line breaks won't change the appearance of anything. So my first author is going to go in a data cell here, and my author is a fellow by the name of Ray Bradbury. Okay, and Ray Bradbury, some of you may know, wrote the famous book Fahrenheit 451. So Fahrenheit, I always misspell Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit 451. Okay, that's my first row. My second row will have another name in it, and this author is going to be Isaac Asimov. So Isaac, and he wrote a book. So this is going in the second cell. He wrote Foundation, which I have put a uppercase in there by mistake. And now my third row is going to have a data cell, and I'm going to dedicate that to Ursula K. Le Guin. And just in case you're wondering, I did look up how to spell everybody's name before I was started in on this. I'm not that great. My memory of these books is not that good. And the one I remember from Ursula K. Le Guin was a book called Wizard of Earth Sea. Did I spell that right? I don't want to, yeah, all lowercase. There we go. And there we go. So there's my 1, 2, 3 rows. I have 2 columns here. I have the author column, Ray, Isaac, and Ursula, and a second column with the book title in it, Fahrenheit 451, Foundation, and A Wizard of Earthsea. Take that extra space out of there, hit save. I'm going to open that up in my default browser, and you can see that now I don't see the lines, the grid lines here, but if I were to make this small, you can see that I'm not allowed, that everything stays lined up pretty nicely. What if I wanted to have a header at the top here that said author and book title? Well, to do that, I would put my row at the top, and I deliberately did not do that first thing because I wanted to emphasize the TR tag and the TD tag and the table tag first because they're the most important. But now that I've gotten this far, I'd like to have my top row, and the first cell in the top row is not going to be a TD tag. No, it's going to be a TH tag. So TH goes in place of the data cell, and it will be author. And then beneath that, I will have another TH tag, and I will put in the word book, and I will hit save. And then I will preview all this in the default browser, and you can see that the browser was smart enough to indicate that author and book, you can see that they're formatted differently than the regular data cell. That's because it's header information. All right, so again, what I want to point out to you is that the extra line breaks, the way I have this laid out here, is really more for me and my eye than it is for anything that the browser needs, because I can lay this out all crazy and inconsistent, just so long as the tags are in the right order. That's all I really care about, and when I preview that in the browser, it looks exactly the same. Now, I'm sure some of you really want to get the grid lines in there, but I'm going to ask you to hold off on that for right now, because what I want you to focus on is the pattern of tags nested inside of other tags. So the table tag is on the outside, followed by a series of rows, and inside of each row, I have either TD tags, or sometimes in the first row, I have a TH tag. All right? Let's see if we can review. So now I've walked you through the creation of an HTML table, and it's time for us to do a little mental review, a lot like what we did with the list tag, right? So the challenge here is, can you write the HTML for a table that looks like this? And then it says in parentheses, don't worry about the grid lines. So I said when we were doing the Visual Studio Code demonstration of this, that we would worry about the grid lines, and by the grid lines are this black frame and these this vertical line and these horizontal lines. We'll worry about the grid lines later, but can you get this structure? So hopefully you can do that. Now would be a great time to get out a pencil and a piece of paper and pause this video and see if you can do that, and then compare your answer to what I'm about to present to you. All right, so I'll let you do that. Okay, now I'm back. So spoilers ahead. When I solve this question with paper and pencil, the first thing I write down is the open table tag and the closed table tag, probably with some space in between. Either that, or I have my eraser ready, because I know that I'm going to have to erase that closed table tag. But get that part done. That gets me the table. Then the next piece is to define the first row. This is a row. Define the first row. So the TR tag comprises the first row, and the first row contains headers. So I have the TH tag with first and this TH tag with last. That gets me this header and this header. Once I have that, then I add another row with Mickey and Dolenz as another row with 2 columns, and then I add Michael Nesmith with another row and 2 columns. And I make sure that I end with table. So I progressed from this to this, if not writing it down at every step, at least in my mind, I progressed in that fashion. And that is a much better way to think about HTML than to try to think about it just from top to bottom, and just kind of remember all of this. So I always, again, when I type these things, I type the open tag and the closing tag, and then I go back and I fill it in, and then I fill it in a little bit more, and then I fill it in a little bit more, and until I have the thing I want. So as before, what I want to emphasize is what I have on the left is how the table is interpreted by the browser, and what I have on the right is the actual HTML code that was used to render this, minus the styling, of course, of which would be the grid lines. Okay, so if you had this or something close to it, you're probably in good shape. And by close, I mean there's no reason that you have to, like you might have chosen to put all this on one line. That's fine, but the important things to take away are the placement of the table tag, the placement of the 1, 2, 3 TR tags, and the use of TH for the header and the use of TD for the data. Now we're going to talk about some overhead.